Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run the game, spitting with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to Please Remain Calm. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I am Daniel Gonzalez. As always, folks, the opinions expressed here on the Please Remain Calm podcast are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services.
All right.
Howdy.
Hey, man. One of the good things of having a break and taking like a year off from doing this is we've allowed time for more emergencies to happen.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because we kind of went through everybody we knew that had something happen to them, or like a thing that we saw where we could get a hold of them. And since then, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone down. And today, on today's show, we have one of them, which was really significant.
Yeah. You know, being a firefighter obviously is inherently a dangerous job. We put ourselves in positions where we could get injured on a daily basis. I often say, and I've probably said it on the podcast before, I think being a cop is a lot more dangerous than being a firefighter. I feel like the unpredictability of being a police officer with like every incident that you have and like every interaction you have with the public, you don't know what the hell that person just did. If you're a traffic cop pulling over somebody because they, you know, did a California roll at a stop sign or whatever, it could be someone who just murdered somebody in there with a gun in their center console, and you could come walking up not expecting shit and they fucking shoot you. I mean, you see videos of that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize that, like how dangerous that is, the unpredictability factor of being a cop. But as firemen, we really don't have that much unpredictability. We do a lot of pre-fire planning on buildings in our district, right? It's part of our job. You go out and you do fire prevention inspections. You see how buildings are laid out. You have placards on the front of buildings that tell you, you know, if there's a hazardous material in there. Same thing with like tankers and stuff like that, right? There's placards on tankers that tell you what kind of, if there's fuel in there, what kind of fuel, what kind of fluid, what kind of liquid, how dangerous it is. If it's, if it reacts to water, right? Our bread and butter is putting water on shit, but if it reacts violently to water, there'll be a sign on there that says that. So there's unpredictability in that fire can damage things and you could have shit happen that isn't expected. You could fall through a roof, you could fall through a floor, stuff like that. But for the most part, we generally know where we're going to be safe. And where we're kind of laying our ass out there. And you typically don't really lay your ass out there unless there's lives to be saved.
Yeah.
Right. Of all of the emergencies and stuff that we have, auto fires are they're kind of low on the totem pole for dangerousness, right?
Yeah. You know what you're expecting going into it.
Yeah, you really don't. Historically, an auto fire is not a big fucking deal. They burn, and you go in there, you break the glass and get the hose line in there, spritz a little water in there, and it steam itself off, or out. Or if the engine compartment's burning, you pry that thing open, pull the grill off, pop the hood, and open it just like you would your normal hood, and then you squirt water in there and put it out. It's not a big deal. Then cars started changing, right? They started used to be you had to worry about like the steering column, putting water on the steering column because it's titanium or whatever. And that reacts poorly with water, right? Then they started making a lot more shit with cars with different metals that react poorly with water. And so we were getting a lot more like flashes and like explosions and shit from that. You saw a bunch of videos over the past 10 years. But when I first got on, man, guys wouldn't even put their pants on for auto fires, right? In 2003, when I got hired, they had just started saying you shall put your breather on for an auto fire. Because guys, you didn't put your breather on. The old timers didn't put their pants on. They just put threw their coat on. You pull up to the vehicle and pull the line and put the damn thing out. It was not a big deal at all, right? So I remember my very first fire, auto fire. I'm working a saw day on the A shift at 26s, and Sammy Ortiz is a old timer there. We pull up, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is a fucking auto fire. Yes, you see the loom up coming in, and so I jump out. I'm all suited up. I jump out. I grab my breather. I throw my breather on. I run around to grab the line, and Sammy's in his Nomex pants and a jacket. No, his helmet's all crooked, and he's already got the hose line. And he's like, "What the fuck? You're taking so goddamn long." And he pulls line, charge it, and he charged line, and Sammy put the fucking fire out, right? And I'm standing there with the dry cam, like, fuck, this guy. Yeah, he didn't have to put a damn breather on all that shit, but that's how they used to operate, right?
Right.
And so when you have an auto fire, it's not something you don't expect that unexpected really with an auto fire at all. Our guest today came face to face with that unexpected, man. Something that I hadn't seen happen to this extent really ever, man. The fact that it was caught on camera too is pretty crazy, and we have the video of it. But we have Tom Rodriguez, he's a firefighter at Fire Station 49. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for coming,
me.
man.
Thank you for coming out, man. Tom worked last night. I worked last night too, so we're both a little bit sleepy. But I'm really glad that he made it in, because I think this is an important incident to talk about, not only to get Tom's story about what happened and his recovery and all that stuff, but it's important because a lot of the stuff that we have safety wise as firefighters comes from stories that we hear from guys, at the kitchen table, hey man, I had this happen to me one day, or something happens to you and it changes the way you operate, you know? Same thing with being a paramedic, certain things will happen. It's like, oh fuck, I'm not going to do that again. Or I'm going to do this way because of this or that. And you pass that along to people that are coming up.
It's not like standard safety stuff for the whole department. It's just like, hey, why do you carry that thing all the time? Oh, this is why.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is why. And one day it'll happen again. Right.
Yep.
So for our audience that follows us, that obviously is more like, within the fire department or trying to get on the fire department, I think this is a very important incident to look at and talk about, so that you guys can soak in that information and maybe even take it back to your departments and talk about, hey, this crazy incident that I heard about on PRC. Yeah.
And because it was a thing where it was like, we don't remember it happening really. And then similar things happened like twice last year.
Yeah. And just like I said, the auto industry is changing. There's a lot more electric vehicles. There's a lot more compressed natural gas powered vehicles, hydrogen cells, all that shit. It's changing. Yes. And so the way that we operate, the way that we, do auto extrications, I mean, all that shit with cars, it's changing, and it's currently changing. It's like, it's not settling right now. It's like a constantly moving thing. So things like this happen. A lot of times the story's put out nationally to different fire departments so that they can learn from it, and they can teach classes on it. And I'm sure you've got some experience talking about this incident since then. Before we get into this incident, man, anytime we have firefighters on here, I always like hearing the story about what sparked your interest in getting into the fire service, and what route did you take to get here? I think people like hearing those types of stories.
Oh yeah. I right after high school, I worked at a gym, and these firefighters were coming in, quite often to work out. But
where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the city of Whittier.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So these guys come in working out, and I started talking to them, and they started telling me what they did for a living. So, they gave me some advice on, hey, if you're interested, first thing you want to do is you get your EMT like everyone else did. Yeah. So I dove in, took my EMT, and then started working for an ambulance company, just like everyone else did. Yeah. Ambulance jockey.
Story as old as time.
Yeah. And so took my EMT, then started working for an ambulance company, and then at the same time doing my fire science courses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then proceeded on to going to Rio Hondo Fire Academy. And in between that, I liked it. And then I started, taking tests all up and down Southern California.
Sure, yeah.
And, just like everyone else did, the way the testing process was sleeping on the floor just to get an application with 50,000 other guys and girls. So, and just, sticking to it.
Yeah.
And you're standing in line for maybe 5 positions with 50,000 other members.
Yeah, exactly.
Very difficult to get on. And you remember the old physical agilities? They were ass kickers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
So
the biddle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tested with any department I could, that was open for, that was hiring, had that perfect firefighter.
Perfect firefighter candidate.
Yeah.
Perfect firefighter candidate. And just kept going at it. But a lot of people, it took a bit, but you finally get hired, and happy to get hired, and enjoyed it and stuck with it. But that's how I got into it. Just
LAFD was your first job?
no,
Your first department?
I got hired in '94 with Montebello.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow.
So, and then went to Bakersfield City in '95,
Oh, wow.
and then came back to LA City in '99. So
Okay.
I got hired full time in '94.
Yeah.
And so that's how I took my path, by just, was talking to some guys at the gym,
Yeah.
and got interested, and they, guided me, and listened to their advice
Yeah.
on how to approach, and did so. But from the time I started, like 18, 19 years old, I got hired in '94. So, I remember back then they said the average time is going to be about 7 years. Some
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
get luckier. And remember when they took LA County, how many guys ended up on band one?
Yeah.
Everyone
Yep.
ended up on band one. And then it was like, it's the luck of the draw of how people got hired. Because some people got hired with no experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know. Yeah.
And some people got hired with a lot of experience.
There was a lot of who you know too back then, dude.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I remember that. And it seemed like the smaller departments, they could, they can hand pick more. They can pick who they want. And they wanted more experienced gentlemen. They wanted people who had their paramedic license already.
Yeah.
That helped out. But I didn't go that route. I didn't go to paramedic school until I got hired with the city of LA. So I was not a paramedic prior to. But I remember that was one thing. That was
like a big shift at that point in time too, where more departments were requiring paramedic.
yes.
Mhm.
Because
the 90s, it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a big thing.
No.
Yeah, in the earlier 90s.
It was at the beginning was, hey, you have to go to a fire academy.
Mhm.
Rio Hondo, Mount Sac. It was
Yeah,
like, you need to
exactly.
get that gave you the edge. And then it turned into, you got to be a paramedic. And then, but paramedic school costs, I don't know, maybe 10 grand back then, or
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And there was like two of them.
Took forever to get
Right.
in. Yeah.
So you're young. Hey, you'd have to have support, like pay for the school. First of all, there's no guarantee you're going to pass.
Mhm.
I don't even think you're going to get your money refunded
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you couldn't work.
You couldn't work. So you had to have support. Someone that had to, support you financially. And that was 6 months.
Mhm.
So some people were fortunate. They had that support. Other people, didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. I, stuck with the fire academy, auxiliary, and then eventually got hired, which, was very, very fortunate. But it was a path. But you start just like other people. You start, God, I'm not hired yet.
Yeah.
Plan B. What else can I do?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you start thinking of that too. So
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, man, because same thing with me, right? I was 19, I think, when we went through South Bay Fire Academy.
Oh, okay.
We were in the same
Mhm.
class. And then, but I didn't have anything on my resume. So I think I got a 90 on my oral
mhm,
and then died off that list.
mhm.
And then took it again, and then sitting there, and you got 100 this time, but then you're sitting there, and a year passes, and you're like,
Mhm.
and then so I finally went, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go to paramedic school, and I got into Mount Sac just because it was the easiest to get into, because it was like through the college,
Yeah.
and then went through Mount Sac, passed, and like the week after I passed paramedic school, I got my job offer. Like I
Wow.
called him, I said, hey, I'm done with paramedic school, I'm a paramedic now, and then a week later I got pushed through. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was important, man. It was an important
Yeah.
thing to do back then. If you could do it, just like
If
you said.
yes.
And I was only able to do it because I was renting my house from my dad. My dad was like, all right, hey, don't worry about rent,
Yeah.
or else I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it was hard.
so you got hired in 99. What drill tower did you go through?
89s.
89s. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 89s was still open. It closed not too long after that, right? 89s.
I'm not too sure. I know they started doing it at Frank's, and then
yeah.
at 40s.
Because I got hired in 03 and it was just Franks and 40s at that point.
Oh, okay.
Or they might have been splitting. I remember they did that for a little bit too. They did like the truck portion at 89s and then did like the engine portion at 40. Anyways.
Oh.
They send you to paramedic school right after probation?
After not right after probation. It was we were forced to go, and I was working, and that was when the fax machines got a fax, and they said, hey, you have orientation like on Friday. I think it was like Monday. Like,
Oh, no shit.
No
or
way.
like kind of soon, like, oh, for what? For paramedics? I go, well, I don't want to go to paramedic school.
No
well,
shit.
you have to go to orientation. You guys have to go. So we went and
Where were you stationed at?
66s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But we
You
were
definitely didn't want
we
to
were
do
strongly encouraged to go and don't fail. Remedial if you
Yeah.
do. Okay.
because that was another thing guys would do. Because the guys didn't want
try
to
to
be
flunk to
paramedics.
not
Right.
be
You didn't
paramedics.
get
Yeah.
drafted into it, and then you
Yeah.
fell on purpose, so you didn't have to do it.
So I went. I said, okay, I'll just go. I don't want to fight this. I just went, and I don't know how long after didn't the union step in and says, hey, you can't force guys to go anymore. I don't know what year that was, but I went in I want to say 03, 02, 03.
Okay, yeah.
So I got hired in 99. So it didn't happen right after probation. But I went and then came out and then, I think my first rescues was Station 12. That's where my first assignment was. But the money wasn't bad, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then as you started, as time went, they started opening up more paramedic resources, assessment engines. So it kind of helped out because you got better spots as time went.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Better spot, more
yeah.
pay.
I'm glad I don't. I'm glad I did it. I know in the long run when we started having the brownouts and the blackouts, the only people that were getting the sod were paramedics, and so that kind of made me say, you know what, maybe I should just, I was thinking of promoting, but then I was like, well, what if we have brownouts and blackouts again?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's no sodding.
Yeah.
Guys losing,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense a lot of times to
Losing
stay
their
where you have
houses,
to be a
losing their
paramedic.
boats,
Yeah, and so
losing their
I
fifth
was like,
wheels, all that
wow.
shit,
So and they always tell you to don't live beyond your means, don't depend on sod, which it's fine, but most of us do end up, kind of we do. You get caught up, and but it worked out. God had a plan. I went with it, and it worked out.
Yeah,
it worked out for me. So,
so now you got time on. You're at 12s. You've been to a couple other spots since then. Let's kind of skip to Harbor. How long have you been down at? So 49. So LA City is kind of split up into different areas, right? You got the Harbor is kind of like its own little it's almost like its own little department down there, man.
It used to
The
be
vibes.
a long time ago. It was the
Let's
San
talk-
Pedro Fire Department.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But the vibes feel different. If when you're stationed in Pedro and in the harbor down there, it's almost like I don't know, man. It's almost like beach vibes down there. It's almost like like Pedro boy.
Oh, yeah, there's boats.
Pedro
Yeah.
boy
And
vibes.
you don't get moved up as much out of there, right?
No,
Because of where it is.
and just like guys that grew up in Pedro. Pedro is a funny town because like everybody fucking knows everybody down there.
It's
If
true.
you grew up in Pedro, it's like you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
everybody that grew up in
Yes.
They
Pedro.
have a lot of local pride.
And so the guys that grew up in Pedro tend to drift back down that way. So it feels like everybody knows each other
Mhm.
down there at all those stations down
Yes.
there. 85s was my third house.
Oh, okay.
I lucked out going to 85s because it was me, Terry Tezzolino, and Ryan Medina. I think he's a captain now. Terry's a AO. Actually, I think Terry's still at 85s, right?
Yeah.
But we got there right when 85s, 5s, and 89s were going USAR. And so like our second day there for our third house was their first day at USAR school. So we got to go through all the USAR school
Oh,
as a
that's
third house
cool.
rookie. Yeah. And then we had the Metro Line derailment, the Glendale, and La Conchita landslide. Both happened like right at the end of our time there. We got to go to both those
Oh,
incidents. Yeah. But like the valley feels like its own fucking like department
Mhm.
almost, and then the more central like downtown areas that's got its own vibe too, and
Yes.
then the west side has its own. It's funny how that works.
yes.
Did you had you always kind of wanted to migrate south to Pedro? Or
No,
just
I never
spot
thought of
open?
it. It's just kind of like, I migrated towards people that I knew
Yeah.
and kind of like, hey, kind of invited, like, hey, you want to come work out here with us?
And it's a nice area to work.
Yeah.
It's not quite as busy.
Yeah.
Obviously some stations are busier than others.
Yeah.
But like you said, you're by the water. There's a lot of people said being by the water,
Yeah.
the fresh air, the
Yeah.
ocean breeze,
Yeah.
And you still get shit.
and
Yeah,
it's
there's still
like
heavy
a
shit.
Yeah.
sea,
Yeah.
seafood everywhere and just like
Yeah.
a fucking
Yeah, it's chill.
beachy kind of chill
Mhm.
vibe, right?
Yeah.
So it's an area that people with, I mean, you got 26 years on now or so.
It'll be 26 in October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, you got a little bit of time on, you can get, you know, and
Yeah,
gravitate
slide down
toward
there, yeah.
spots like that. One thing you don't really expect, which we all should, just like I said, you know, danger lurks around every corner, is to have something like what happened on this incident happen. What is a typical, so you're in a paramedic spot at 49s?
Yeah, it's a paramedic. It's an assessment
Engine. There's no rescue there though.
No
right?
rescue, no 800.
So
Two boats and an engine and a chief, battalion chief.
Do you get sent to stuff on boats as the paramedic? Do you jump on the boat and respond?
Yes. So,
and these are the smaller boats, right?
there's two boats. We have boat 3 and 4.
Okay.
So, frontline dive boat, which is 3, and then boat 4.
So you have divers assigned to the station there.
Yes,
too?
there's 2 frontline divers, and then on the on boat 3, and then on the engine, the nozzle spot is a backup diver spot.
Okay.
Those stations are interesting because not only do you have to have an engineer and firefighters and a captain, one for the engine, but you also have to have pilots for the boats,
Right.
Guys that are certified by the Coast Guard to actually be out on the water and operate these things. And then you have to have certified divers, and everyone's a firefighter, everyone's an EMT. But if you get a paramedic, like let's say you get a stranded boat, you know, that lost power, and there's somebody there having a panic attack or chest pain, then obviously you as a medic need to jump on and respond to
on the
treat
boat
that person.
Yeah.
So they're interesting specialty.
Yeah, and it's cool.
Interesting specialty station. All that being said, you still run all the same, you know, calls that everyone else runs, you know, your standard medical runs,
Yes.
auto fires, structure fires, all that stuff. Right.
Yes.
So let's how many calls do you run in a day typically on the engine at 49s?
Depends. Sometimes none. Yesterday we had 2.
And they're mostly medical runs?
We're 49s is it's Wilmington.
Yeah.
So 38s is in Wilmington too.
Right.
So like yesterday, the light force got moved up to Frank Hoskins. So
our training center,
our training center
near Dodger Stadium.
So that just leaves the engine. So because 38's first in is pretty busy. So
and 38s is just a light force now.
it's
right?
it's a task force.
It's a task force.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that being said, if they're busy, we could be busy because if
Get their runs.
Yeah.
we get their runs too, and especially if one of the engine or the light force is either moved up or on an incident, then
You're definitely running.
we're next up. So
And that's kind of what happened this morning, right? To a certain extent, was because the light force got it first.
they were, I believe they might have been in 48's first in. I think the light force was. I don't know where the engine was, but the incident I believe was in 38's first in. So we got responded.
Gotcha.
So
So the date we're talking about is February 15th of last year, 2024. It was a morning incident. Went out approximately 7:10, 7:11 in the morning. Anytime there's a significant incident or there's an incident where somebody gets injured, the department puts out these blue sheets and green sheets that kind of break down the incident. And it's for us, for training purposes, just kind of go over it and cover it. The blue sheet says the light force was attached to an auto fire, but that they requested somebody to respond ahead of them because they were in another district.
correct.
That's how you guys got attached to it, right?
Yes.
So now engine 49 gets rang down at the station. So it's a normal day. You show up at the station 6:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
What time do guys make relief at 49s?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Okay, perfect.
At that, I was here at 6 o'clock. Yeah.
So you come in at 6. It's a normal day.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first call of the day.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're just chilling in the kitchen.
I was just I checked the engine out, breather, checked everything out in my engine, and I just remember going upstairs, change over into shorts and a shirt, and department shirt because I was gonna change over and then head downstairs to get coffee.
Sure. Yeah.
So I just remember in the locker room changing over, and then that's when we got the call. So I was upstairs, and then Headed downstairs, suited up.
And nothing special. It came out as an auto fire.
Auto fire.
Right. Okay. So now you jump on the rig. You guys are responding. Obviously, emergency. You see a loom up coming in.
Yeah. As soon as we got left quarters, we looked to the north. You could see a loom up.
Yeah.
So okay, we knew we had something.
And it's funny with loom ups too, man, because you can you can see a loom up and you go, oh, that's an auto fire. Oh, it looks like rubbish, or oh shit, that's something's fucking, that's a boomer, or that's taken off, or somebody put water on you because it's white or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can tell a lot from a loom up.
Yes.
So it just looked like a standard auto fire loom up.
It was
nothing special.
A good amount of black smoke.
Oh, okay.
From a distance, and so we knew we had an auto fire. So
it wound up being a bobtail truck. So like a large truck that was fully involved when you got there.
yes,
And it didn't have a trailer on it, right?
I couldn't tell. All I know, it was fully involved, and we decided we laid in. So I was hydrant, so we laid in. So a lot of the times on auto fires, what I do personally is, if we do see that there's a loom up auto fire, so I like to, in the back, when I'm heading towards the auto fire, with me, I like to put my face piece on, hood and helmet. So
that way you're ready to go.
Yeah. And the reason why I do that is, a lot of times when you get an auto fire and you got to get the hood popped open and the trunk popped open, if it's well involved, what happens with the hood, the link, when you're going to pop the hood, it burns out. So, when you open the driver's side door, you can pop the hood with the link, right? With the pull. Right. You pull it and it pops. Well, if it burns, now you have to pry it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more work. So I try and if I'm not the nozzle, maybe I can, get to it fast before it burns.
Yeah.
And, make life easier.
Right. And that just comes from auto fires
experience.
Over the years.
Yeah. Yes.
Auto fire after auto fire after auto fire.
Yeah.
Gets back to what I said before about, shit happening, you putting shit in your mental.
So that's what I do. I don't
toolbox.
I just try and, couple steps ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So I did. But when we approached it, we said, this is a pretty good size. So we said, let's lay in.
Yeah.
So I had my face piece on, my helmet, and I'm fully suited up.
Yeah, for those that don't know, a fire engine has a 500-gallon water tank.
Yes.
So if you don't lay in, you're not connected to a hydrant.
Right.
That's what you got to deal with.
Right.
And we as firefighters understand that. And when you're on the tank, obviously you have nozzle discipline. You're not going to dump a.
Right.
But if you pull up to something or an RV or something like that, where it's like something larger than, then the engineer will go, hey, we should probably lay into this.
Yeah.
Because they'll start getting nervous.
Yeah.
If as that water level starts dropping,
you don't want to run out.
Shit, I need a supply.
Yeah.
So you guys lay in, you pull up, you look at it. It's this kind of large truck, but at that point, it's still a basic standard.
Yeah, nothing special.
Combustion engine, regular truck, right?
Right.
As far as you're concerned.
So I lay, I'm hydrant, wrap the hydrant, connect it, and, calls for water. I'm giving them water, open up the hydrant valve. And at that time, as I was giving them water, I was opening up the hydrant valve. 238 pulled up.
Okay.
Pump. And so it was
essentially another engine. It's
another
the pump that rides with truck 38 as a life force.
Right. So
but you got more water basically and another pump. Yeah.
So he pulled up right to the hydrant, and he took over.
Perfect.
So then I proceeded to my engine and compartment, open it up. I think it was already open. Put my breather on and went on air, gloved up right there. And then we had the dry chem on right there in that compartment, but it was gone. So apparently someone already took it. So didn't need to do that. And then went to the other side of the rear of the engine, and then grabbed a rubbish hook. Okay. Because the height of semis to pop the door and then pull the hood back is pretty tall.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was my objective. So
And being in the harbor,
Mhm.
had you been on semi fires
yes.
before? Because
Yeah.
they're all in and out
Right.
there all
yeah,
the time.
2 weeks before that, semi, we had a how many, like 3 trucks on fire in a yard, all
Yeah.
semis.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. So and we've had them before to where they're hard to reach. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nothing new.
fully suited up with my rubbish hook, and then proceeded to the semi truck, and so got to the passenger side door and pulled it open. Proceeded to the hood of the truck, popped it open with the rubbish hook, then went around to the driver's side, popped it open, and it fell to the ground. You can see in the video.
Yeah.
So then I was grabbing it, leaning over, grabbing it to move it away so that the nozzle member could have access
Yeah.
to the cab. And then as I'm just remember grabbing it and pulling it, that's when I went out.
Lights out.
Lights out.
Let's stay. Are you cool watching the video?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
watched it several
Can
times.
we take a look at the video so we can know
Sure.
what we're
Yeah.
talking about here? Before the explosion happened, obviously the nozzle member was putting water on the fire.
Yes.
So because in the video it looks like complete white smoke. I mean, it looks like the fire is completely out and you guys are starting to like clean up. Is that the case, or was it still actively burning as far as you remember?
That I can't remember. I just was focusing on my goal.
Yeah.
To
okay.
gain access into the cab and the engine compartment.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I can't remember white smoke, black smoke, or anything like that.
Gotcha.
I just went to work, and that's the last thing I remember is when I was pulling away that the driver's side door.
Was there any indication before the explosion that anything was squirrely or off by the fire?
No, nothing. It's just
Yeah.
it's an auto
Standard
fire,
semi. Yeah.
well involved. Let's get additional water supply other than the tank, and so just went to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about
Yeah.
what exactly happened. We'll show the video obviously in the episode here. A massive explosion that really just it looks like 1 second it's just like you said, standard truck fire,
Regular fire.
and you can see you in the video literally on top of the truck, doing your thing and working and pulling stuff away. And there is a captain in the video. The video was taken from like the dash of a truck that was up the street. And you can see Captain Savornich kind of walking up the street, and as he's approaching, it's not a small, I mean, it is a massive explosion.
Huge, yeah.
Man. And right off the bat, you think like, whoa, what the hell was in this truck that blew? And what it was this truck was powered by compressed natural gas. So if you can picture a semi truck or a bigger like bobtail truck like that, the fuel tanks are the same place that the compressed natural gas tanks were on there.
Yeah.
I mean, they look like fuel tanks.
Saddle tanks.
Mhm.
Saddle tanks. Underneath the side doors, on the sides, on either side of the cab, with the cap there to fill up and everything. And They do have a sticker on there that says CNG, but when you're talking about a fully involved truck,
You don't see the sticker. Yeah.
the sticker's
Yeah.
going to be burned up. Or there's smoke everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like truck fires and stuff, I'm looking for placards. Obviously, if we pull up to a tractor trailer, I'm looking for placards to see what. Actually, the captains will
see a
that
tanker,
before we get there, to
Yeah.
see where we're at as they,
Mm-hmm.
are uphill, upwind, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But you're looking for placards on the tanker, or on the trailer.
Yeah,
It's like,
not
what
on
is
the
this
cab.
thing hauling?
Yes.
You're not thinking about what is actually powering this truck, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that I learned about these compressed natural gas tanks is that they do have relief valves on them. The relief valves are operated though by, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you've heard about all this since then. The relief valves are triggered by heat though. So like, let's say they start to get overheated. Obviously, anything that you heat up is going to expand, right? So that'll increase the pressure within the tanks. But at a certain point, they reach I don't know if it's a fusible link or what. They reach a certain heat level where they break and they start relieving the pressure.
Right.
So they've talked about, because obviously you cover this stuff at lineup. We talked about lineup last episode. And one of the things that people brought up was that these tanks, it's better to not put water on the tanks and start cooling them and let them continue to get hot so that the relief valve will operate properly and start relieving the pressure. That when you start putting water on the tanks and you're cooling, you're starting to cool the tank off, you're actually cool that relief valve off to the point where it won't operate properly.
And it won't relieve the
Whereas
pressure.
the insides of the tank can continue to expand, continue to heat up. And that's possibly what happened here.
But you don't have a way to know that going in.
There's no
Yeah, because the fucking fire in the truck. Yeah, you're like, okay, we're putting out.
So it's like when Brent Lovren tragically was killed in Five's first stint. I was at 63s at the time, my first stint there, and it was such a normal thing that we do. Really light smoke coming out from around this metal door. You cut the fucking door open and get inside and see what the hell is burning. That's one thing that's always been in the back of my mind when I walk up to a door, and since then, to cut a door open. Is this a sealed room? Am I getting smoke out of everywhere? Is it pressurized enough? And it's a thought.
Yeah.
It's always a thought.
Yeah.
So something like this, obviously it's going to put that thought into everyone's into everyone's mind too. 9 guys were injured by this explosion.
Yeah.
You're the nozzleman, I'm assuming, was injured, right? 9 guys were injured. Was it 7 taken to the hospital?
8. And then 1 to a burn center.
8 of the injured firefighters. So 1 firefighter subsequently airlifted to LA County General, formerly County USC. Have further care at the burn center. 8 injured firefighters were discharged from the hospital. 2 returned to duty at the time of this report being written, and 1 was still in the hospital at the time of this report being written.
So here's another recurring thing for our listeners with our show. With fire incidents, you always start with one thing, and then it becomes a new thing. The thing that you started with is not the thing that you end up with, and now we're like, oh shit, we're here in this scenario now.
Yeah. So
So you had a routine auto fire, or what you thought. Now you have a mass casualty incident.
yes.
You got 9 guys. They don't dispatch ambulances to auto fires.
Right.
So there's nobody there.
Right.
Basically, the paramedics you're the paramedic basically,
Right.
and you're down.
right.
Captain Savornich, was he your captain on 49s that day?
No, Captain Andy Signs.
Okay.
He's assigned to 112s.
Okay. Gotcha.
So he was working with us that day.
Gotcha.
And then the other 3 members, myself, nozzle, and engineer, were assigned to that to the engine and that shift.
So you obviously were right front and center for when this explosion happened.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to me about the injuries you suffered from it?
The injury that I had was, a severe concussions, severe head injury, severe trauma.
Yeah.
So
The scar there? Is
yes,
that
the
from
scar
it?
here was, my forehead was split open. So that right elbow was injured, and that's pretty much injuries that I suffered.
Any burn injuries at all? Or?
No burn injuries and no
Thank
hearing
God.
injuries.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was fully suited. I was told that had I had been maybe 5 inches taller, it would probably just taken my head off. And even if I was fully suited, because a chunk of metal
Right.
struck me right on the top of the helmet, launched my helmet, my shield. And, but had I been taller, it would have probably hit me right in the face piece, which would have been a different story. No matter,
Yeah.
no
Right.
matter how, I was fully suited. That would have still not saved me.
Sure. Yeah.
So, what was it? Is a miracle? I mean, God saved me, obviously, because decided it wasn't my time.
Yeah, man.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you definitely get that sense watching the video and seeing like
Yes.
the magnitude of that
Yes.
of that explosion. Initially, when you see it, your first thought is like, shit, somebody died.
Yeah.
Somebody died, because I remember that morning too. We were coming on that morning, and it was on the news, and they showed the explosion, and we
Okay.
were all like, "Holy shit!" We were just waiting to hear
Yeah.
who died.
Yeah.
Then obviously you hear, that everyone made it and is at the hospital,
Yeah.
and start hearing names. And I've known you from the past for years too.
Yeah.
And then there was talk about our helmets, because like we got these new helmets
Yes.
that everyone fucking hates,
Yeah.
because they're way heavier,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
they're so like where our old helmets you could put on without a chin strap, and you could work and bend over
Yeah, it
and
would
do
sit.
everything, and it's snug on there. And these new
Yeah.
ones are definitely way heavier, and they kind of flop around a little bit. But when this incident happened, that was like the first thing that everyone started talking about, was like, fuck man, these new thick heavy ass helmets probably saved his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that helmet, obviously you got to see your equipment and everything afterwards, was the helmet split?
I
or-
saw it later on in the picture. It was deformed and cracked. So they're saying, the impact. What I've been told, if the Phoenix helmet if I would have had that on, that it wouldn't have held
Yeah.
the
It would've
integrity. That's
Yeah.
what I've been told. I
Mm.
cannot confirm it because,
Yeah.
Right.
never ran a test on both helmets, but that's what they said. That
Yeah,
this helmet
still
saved me.
Crazy.
That's what I've been told.
Damn. Does it suck that I still want the Phoenix back?
There's a lot of people who still do. I mean, there's a lot of members who
Yeah.
say, "Hey, look, can they
Can we make them thicker?
Can they make them better
Yeah.
so that they're more comfortable?" So
Sup-
I don't know if they're working on that.
Supposedly they have an NFPA approved Phoenix that there's talk around the department.
Yeah.
It might be bullshit or whatever.
or
But,
not.
but that we might be going back to that.
Mhm.
But I think Ronnie V was like one of the ones that was pushing for the new helmets too. So him being our new chief, I'm not sure if that will change.
I still want to get into the actual like response when the thing happened, because
So Ben works for the
8
MAC.
guys down
I
at
don't know that.
once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a supervisor at the MAC.
Yeah.
That was most of the guys there, right? I mean, how many people were on scene at that point when you're working? I mean, I know you don't know exactly, but it was
Yeah,
like only 2 or 3 companies, right?
I didn't know. All I knew is me and Casey, the nozzle guy,
Mhm.
and
We had a
I
light
did-
force and an engine.
Yeah.
There.
Yes,
So-
it's about
But
9 guys or so, right?
Even then, I knew the pump pulled up and took over the hydrant for me, right? But even then, when I approached my engine to continue suiting up, and then approaching the semi, I still didn't know who was
Yeah,
there. All
right.
I knew Casey was putting water on it,
yeah.
Mhm.
but I didn't know who else was there.
So what I'm getting at is it's like almost the entire response is down. There's now patients. Somebody's got to call in now for an ambulance. Is that even a mayday if you're the only guy left? Because you're not telling people to get out or anything. You're not like what happens?
Yeah,
there?
but it's still. I don't know if he put out a mayday or not. Did any of the captains put out a mayday?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't
know.
To be honest,
but
with you,
that's
I
what I mean.
don't know
Would it
if you
even
do.
apply?
Yeah,
Because
but
you're
it's
not
almost
evacuating.
yeah, it's almost just a way of like putting out on the radio that we have an
Yeah.
emergency.
Right,
you know what
right.
I mean, it's not so much like to
Yeah.
evacuate somebody, but I know that, like I said in the video, Captain Savornich is kind of walking toward the incident when it blows, and you see him kind of
Yeah, I've
scramble
seen
to
the
the
video.
side.
Yes.
So at least one captain was still
Mhm.
conscious, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume that he put the call out that we've had an explosion, and then they started sending companies, and then yeah, man, when you see like the aftermath of the truck, I mean, it's like fucking incredible,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Dust. Yeah.
Yes.
So you wound up at Harbor UCLA.
Yes.
At what point did you regain consciousness where you actually like remember what's going on?
I woke up. I'm on the floorboard. I'm on the floor of the rescue because I don't remember
they
how
loaded all you
they
in.
loaded
Yeah.
a number of us in there, and I couldn't tell you how many. I remember when I kind of came to, and it was foggy, kind of blurry, like a dream.
Yeah.
Of somebody coming out in the gurney with like a O2 mask on, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
And from that point of seeing someone being pulled out right next to me on the gurney, the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital bed. And I'm in the hospital bed with numerous people in front of the bed, surrounding me, just staring at me.
Hospital employees, like trauma center shit.
A mix of, employees
Department.
and our members.
Yeah. And at this point, do you not have any clue what the fuck's going on or what happened?
No idea.
Okay.
I'm just, have a lot of questions myself, but I still didn't understand what was going on.
Did you have a guess? Because we've had this before where guys wake up with everybody looking at them and they always think like, oh shit, I missed a run, or like they always have a funny guess of what they thought happened to them.
I knew something happened, but I didn't know how bad.
Yeah.
I know someone was being brought out in a gurney, so I didn't know who that was and how bad they were and like who else.
Yeah.
And I, of course, because I'm still kind of out of it.
But you didn't know that an explosion had happened.
No,
Okay.
did not know.
At what point did somebody explain to you what happened?
A few minutes. I don't know if it was a few minutes. I couldn't tell you how much time had evolved. I just remember nurses and doctors on me, patching me up.
Yeah.
And I guess the trauma surgeon was sewing my head up. And then I hear that, hey, the mayor is here and fire chief doing a press conference out in front. For what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, well, is everyone okay?
Yeah. Who died?
Yeah. I started kind of thinking about it, and then at that point, I didn't know if they had given me pain meds on top of the altered level of conscience that I was in.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just still not completely with it. I just remember saying to myself, my wife. And so I can't remember who was next to me that had a cell phone. And I said, hey, can you call my wife and tell her I'm okay?
Yeah.
And I'm, at that point, I'm like, I can feel my legs and I'm, and you start
waking up more self-assessment.
Like, okay, do I have feeling? What,
Yeah.
And so they called her and then I said, hey, I'm okay. I'm just telling you, I don't know if you know anything, but I guess she already knew. I just want to let you know I'm okay. And I said, I think they're going to come get you. Someone told me they're going to come get you at the house. Okay. Then that's it.
Yeah. Do you have kids, Tom?
Yes.
How old are your kids?
They range from 35 to 21.
Oh shit.
So I just know my wife was going to handle letting all the kids know and my mom and dad and stuff. So, but people already kind of knew, because where I work.
Yeah.
And so, but my wife went ahead, and this is after she told me that she called. And I just remember being in the hospital bed, and I don't know, I think it was a nurse. Hey, your brother-in-law is on the phone. And I said, yeah, tell him I'm okay. I'm good. And he told my sister.
Okay.
And so later on, I asked my brother, that was you who called, right? He goes, yeah, I called. They just, he wasn't there, but they just wanted to get confirmation. Yeah. Is he alive? And how well is he? But I just told him, hey, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm being worked on at the same time.
Did your wife talk to you at all about getting the phone call about the incident? Because that's got to be scary as hell to get a phone call from the
It was all over the news by then. Yeah.
Or did she find out about it from the news? And even that is scary because like you see it on the news and it's like, oh shit, that's my
your engine, dude.
I think someone had told her that, hey, that where your husband works. Was my wife works? She's a personal trainer. She's a instructor. She works at 24-Hour Fitness, and she was at the gym. And I think someone had came and told her, and then that's when I can't remember at what point she had found out that I was involved in the explosion.
Yeah.
But that, I was okay. So I was more worried about my wife that
Sure.
what she thinking.
Yeah. Because you're okay.
I know I'm okay, but I know to what extent I'm asking myself if I'm okay. And the reason is because I know a lot of people around the hospital bed, that look they had in their eyes.
Sure. Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking they're staring right at me and I don't know what I look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I deformed? Am I, that's the thing. Like,
yeah.
Am I sloth from the gurneys now?
It's the way they looked at me.
And no one's going to tell you.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, no, Tom, you look great.
Yeah. So I'm just there, just hoping and praying and just whatever. And I'm still kind of out of it. So I don't have like a lot of energy. And then I just remember, I didn't know what he was doing. I couldn't even feel my head.
Yeah.
So I didn't know he was sewing me up.
But no fractures or anything like that up here?
There was a little blood in the brain at first, and they still were monitoring me to make sure, like, is it a complete, like, how intense, how bad is the brain bleed?
Right.
And all
Yeah.
that. So they were monitoring me, and then, stayed a couple of nights in the hospital, get monitored. And even when I got released, I couldn't even walk straight. I wasn't right with myself.
Yeah.
And it took a while.
Yeah.
Several months.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was not right with myself. And you start asking, because
how long is this?
How long is this going to last? Like, I'm not right. And, several months going to specialists, the neurosurgeons,
right.
Audiologists, ear, nose, and throat,
yeah.
Plastic surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, and so you just start questioning. And no one has an answer with a severe head injury.
Sure, yeah. It's different for
they
everybody.
Can't tell you, you'll be good in 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah.
So
nope.
That's what you're really worried about. Am I going to be disabled for the rest of my life? How bad is this going to be? And so you get kind of bummed out and depressed a little bit. But your faith in God is what keeps you afloat. And thankfully, with the help that I got, I ended up getting better enough to go back to work and not being, could have been worse. A, dead. B, physically disabled. Right. How about your brain to where you're mentally handicapped too, and you can't live a, somewhat a normal life, so that's the scary part.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was just not my time. It was where I was, where the energy went when the explosion, because that chunk of metal struck me right in the head.
Right.
I could have been 3 feet to the right, and it would have missed me. But the energy, and everyone got the energy from different parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was on the side where the cylinder exploded. I was right in front of it.
Yeah. Man.
So
how long were you out total?
Before
you came back to work?
Before I came back to work, I think it was like 8 months.
Wow.
And then I came back, but then I went off again because I had to have a couple more surgeries.
Yeah.
And then was off for another, I think 4 months, 4 months, and then came back.
Now you're back.
And so now I'm back. So
we had Nate Espinosa on an episode who fell through the roof.
Oh, right? Yes. I remember
he talks
that.
about coming back. He got cleared to come back.
Yeah.
And that the first time he got on the roof, he freaked out.
Oh.
It's like, this roof doesn't feel right. We got to get out of here. And he freaked out. So we talked earlier about how down in the harbor, you get those truck fires all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any of that? Have you had a truck fire since then?
I've had an auto fire.
And was there any of that kind of apprehension or just kind of fear that went along with it? Or
I just didn't. I went in autopilot, and so,
memory.
But when we rolled up, you could see it was diesel. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something you actively look for.
Oh yeah. You look
now
for
it's
that.
there. Yeah.
Right. So I think I don't know if dispatch is now they prompt dispatch to ask maybe the operator, how is your car?
That's another thing.
Powered.
Was the driver there on scene?
I didn't see a driver on scene.
No.
Because
typically the drivers you're taught to, like, if there is
on which fire are we talking about?
on the
explosion?
explosion.
I heard, this is the aftermath from what I heard. I heard that the driver left the area, was maybe down the street.
Oh, really?
Right. That's what I heard. I can't confirm it, but that's what I heard. But if they're down the street, obviously you can't confirm anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, man, that's crazy incident, crazy story.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of people throughout your career on the job, Tom, and some people are nice, some people are helpful. I've always thought of you as a great guy.
Oh,
You've always been cool with me.
No, I've worked with you down in Venice.
Yeah,
Oh,
whenever we worked
It's been
together,
a while though.
It's
been a while.
You've
since I
always
worked
been great
out.
with me, man.
Yeah.
I have a ton of respect for you.
Oh yeah, thank you. Same here.
Can't tell you how happy I am that you got through this.
Thank you.
For the most
Yeah,
part,
totally.
unscathed.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I'm happy for your family, man, and that you don't have any significant deficits, because when you see the explosion, I mean, it's literally
when you guys see
no
the
doubt
episode,
about
yeah,
it. Somebody died in this thing.
Yeah.
So to know that you went through that and you came out the other end, man, and the way you did is fucking great.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add? We're kind of coming up to the end here.
No, I'm just thankful to God that, and not just for me, but the other guys.
Sure.
I know
yeah.
Dan, I saw Dan, he's looking good. He's feeling, he's a diver now. He's going through the training. So he was pretty bad too. But just like you said, looking at the incident, at the explosion, that nobody died, and now we can learn from it. And now obviously auto fires are handled differently now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, man.
just thankful. But I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for coming on,
Yeah.
man.
Like
I
it's
said,
great talking
I
about
can't
it.
believe you have a 35-year-old kid. I thought he was like
crazy.
my age, man. Like I
That's
know, like you
crazy.
said, he got on in
Yeah.
'94, so you're a
Yeah.
little older. But
Yeah.
like you moisturize the retinol
No,
activator, or
She was
Oh,
born in
peppermint
90.
oil?
Yeah.
yeah, right,
Yeah, no.
man.
I just, I'm very fortunate. But yeah, she's 35. I even have to think about how old my kids are. Like, wait a minute, how old is she? I got to start doing the math.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to like bring out my calculator on my phone and like write it down. Like, wait, she's 35.
Like, goddamn, I'm old.
I thought she was 32. She's 35. Shoot.
Time flies, bro.
Time flies.
Time flies.
All right, man.
So-
Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Like I said, stories like this help people, not just like in your battalion or
Yeah.
in the department, but when you're able to put it out on a platform,
Yeah.
and get it across the country, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to help people, think twice when
Yes.
they get an incident like that.
Do you have anything you want to promote or anything?
No, I mean,
Yes.
just, suit up,
Yeah. Yeah. Wear all your equipment.
wear all your
please.
Yep.
equipment.
Stay safe.
And stay safe, and be aware that CNG, hydrogen, battery operated,
Yeah.
I'm going to say one other thing,
could
man.
explode.
I'm going to say one other thing. In my time on the department,
Mm.
Tom's time on the department, there have been a handful of people that have died in the line of duty.
Yes.
Hug your wife before you go to work.
Yeah.
Tell your kids you love them.
Yes.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
Because something like this, like heaven forbid, had something been more serious,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even have known that it happened.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
You want to leave on a good note, and
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
faith and good
Mhm.
spirits with your loved ones and your wife.
absolutely, and
know.
no arguments worth leaving
No.
angry when there's a
Exactly.
potential for something like this to happen. So love the people around you, tell them you care about them, and enjoy every day. Live it to the fullest. Thank you, Tom, for coming on. You guys can follow me at DannyGonzo34 on Instagram.
Follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben9Humor on Instagram. You can follow our show at PRC Pod on Instagram and at PRC Podcast on TikTok. Or you could also email us, contact prcpod@gmail.com if you have a guest, want to be a guest, or have any suggestions for us. Thanks.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.